Hey.
Alright y'all, with the NBA season officially starting today as you are watching this video, I wanted to get my predictions out into the internet for everyone to see, and so that I can go back at the end of the season and see how I did. We're going to have the Eastern Conference standings predictions in this video, I'll have the Western Conference predictions in another video, and then I'll have a third video with my predictions for the awards at the end of the season. So without further ado, let's start with the bottom of the Eastern Conference. In 15th, I have the Charlotte Hornets. I'm just not quite sure what they have done this offseason or what they did last year to have any reason to put faith in them being a good basketball team. They'll have LaMelo Ball back, which should give them a few more wins, but outside of that, I'm just not quite sure what on this team is there any reason to root for or get excited about. In 14th, I have the Washington Wizards. They won 35 games last season, they then lost Bradley Beal, they lost Kristaps Porzingis, and they are clearly in rebuilding mode. I think they still do have some decent talent, again with Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma. I'm excited for Denny Avdia, another year with him. While I don't think they're going to be a good team by any means, I think they could have a little bit of last season's Utah Jazz in them where they might surprise some people with how many wins they end up getting. 13th in the Eastern Conference, I have the Detroit Pistons. Although it'll be another consecutive season as a bottom 3 team in the East, I do think Detroit is heading in the right direction. Obviously, they get Cade Cunningham back. They have Asar Thompson, who I'm really excited for. They have a whole bunch of young talent on this team that they're just going to need some time to gel. And, you know, even though they're not going to be winning a lot of games this season, again, they're heading in the right direction. And in 12th place, we have the Chicago Bulls. Now, in my eyes, the Chicago Bulls are the definition of mid in today's NBA. They won 40 games last year. They're projected to win 37 this season. And I just think they're going to be around 500 again. Obviously, you know, Zach LaVine, Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, they still have that big three, still no Lonzo Ball. They have a few guys who I'm excited for, but at the end of the day, this team has no direction. It's probably going to be another year of Chicago Bulls fans yelling for the team to be sellers and to enter a rebuild at the trade deadline, but I doubt they're going to do that. They're probably just going to try and win again with this same core, and I think it's going to be more of the same and another, 40-ish win season. Now at 11th and just barely missing the play-in, I have the Toronto Raptors. They kind of fit into the same category as the Bulls for me, where they are a pretty mid team, although they at least have some young players that I'm excited for with Scotty Barnes. Grady Dick should be a really fun addition this season. I like me some Gary Trent Jr. Jakob Poeltl is back as the big and paint protector. But at the end of the day, their roster just still does not really contend with the other teams in the East, and because of that, I think they're going to narrowly miss the play-in. Overall, should be a season where they're heading in the right direction though. Now the first play-in team at the 10th seed, I have the Orlando Magic. They were recently in the news because of some comments from Patrick Beverley saying that, they have Franz Wagner and Paulo Banchero, 2 top 100 guys in the league. They should be a playoff team. And while I don't necessarily fully agree with that statement, I do think the Magic take a bit of a leap this year, hit the play-in game. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish as the 8, 9, or even maybe the 7 seed, but I still think they have a ways to go as an actual team. A whole bunch of young talent led by 2 studs, again with Wagner and Banchero. And at the 9 seed, back in the play-in game, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Now this is one team in the East I was kind of unsure of where to place them because I feel like every season it's the same story, at least ever since Trae Young has been an all-star, that they start off the season horribly, they then have a bunch of turmoil around the all-star break, head coaching change, and then they rattle off a huge win streak in the second half of the season. I mean, that's what happened last year at least. They're heading into this new year with Quinn Snyder at the helm, and again, this team is just going to go as far as Trae Young and DeJounte Murray take them. So while this team could easily avoid the play-in in total and be like a 5 or 6 seed, I wouldn't be surprised by that, and I also wouldn't be surprised if they missed the play-in entirely because they just implode at some point. It seems like we are heading towards some sort of breakup between either Trae Young or one of the other star players on this Atlanta Hawks team. They're definitely going to be on pack watch this season. And at the 8th seed, I have one of my favorite teams in the East right now, the Indiana Pacers. Now, they only won 35 games last season. They're only projected to win 38.5, which I think is crazy because they have looked really good in the preseason. They were a really good team last year when Tyrese Halliburton played. Then obviously he got hurt and they won a big losing streak and fell out of play-in contention. But with Halliburton back, they also had some great pickups with Obi Toppin and Bruce Brown. Another year of Benedict Mathurin, growing as a player. And I think this team is easily a lock for at least the play-in. And up next, rounding out the play-in spots at the 7th seed, I got the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this is a team that has grown on me as the preseason has gone on. I had a feeling that they would be good, at least better than they finished last year, because they'd actually have an offseason to integrate Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson to be their go-to guys. But with the resurgence of Ben Simmons actually being a good basketball player again, that just elevates them even more in my eyes. And again, this is another team I would not be surprised if they avoid the play-in and snag one of those last playoff spots. Obviously, everyone likes what they're seeing from Ben Simmons so far, but there's still the point that he has to maintain consistency. He's been good for a couple of weeks now throughout the preseason, but can he maintain this throughout a full 82-game season? We'll have to see. And now with the 6th seed, officially into the playoff spots, I got the Miami Heat snagging that last spot. I think that because of their crazy, insane playoff run, a lot of people forgot that the Miami Heat had a pretty terrible regular season. They finished as the 8th seed. Jimmy Butler missed a lot of time. Tyler Herro was good, but also missed some time. Bam Adebayo was solid, but outside of that, they had nobody contributing on that team. Either way, I know they missed out on Dame. I know that a lot of people said that they had a bad offseason, which I'm not arguing. But at the same time, I think we see them healthier than they were last year. I think we see them, maybe ride on the coattails of that playoff run into the season. I don't think they're going to finish as the 8th seed again. I think they'll win some more games and snag that last playoff spot. Then at the 5 seed, we have the New York Knicks. Now, a lot of people like the upgrades that the Knicks made this offseason. I'm going to include Josh Hart in that since he was a trade deadline acquisition, but they also bring in Dante DiVincenzo, another solid role player. Year 2 of the Jalen Brunson lead, superstar experiment should be fun. I still don't believe in Julius Randle as being a go-to guy, and at this point, who knows what we're going to get from RJ Barrett. So I'm not ready to put them into that top tier, that next tier up in this Eastern Conference. But I do think they have the edge over Miami, at least for the regular season. Next up at the 4 seed, snagging home court advantage in the playoffs, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. At this point, I feel like this is kind of the obvious spot for them. They should be a top 3 team in the East, but with all of the James Harden nonsense going on, you just have to take them down to at least a peg behind the other 3 teams above them. At this point, I still think James Harden gets traded at some point this season. If it's now, if it's the trade deadline, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But even if they are without James Harden, whether he is sitting or whether they trade him for some other role players and assets, I still believe in the Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid duo enough that they can snag a top 4 seed in this conference. And if they do end up getting a good return for James Harden, or if Harden just returns himself, then again, I think that easily put them into the next tier, maybe not with the Boston and Milwaukee's of the world, but at least above the Cleveland Cavaliers. Which, speaking of our 3rd seed in the East, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. They somewhat address their forward or wing issues by adding Max Strus, who I think will actually be a really big improvement for them heading into the season. They're bringing back their same core, another year of Darius Garland improving. Donovan Mitchell is already a great player. Evan Mobley will have another year of improvement under his belt. This defense is going to be really good yet again. It's just going to be, will the offense be able to pick it up this time, as they had a pretty rough outing in the playoffs. Maybe they'll use that as some motivation. But they're projected 50.5 wins. I think a lot of people might have missed the fact that they won 51 games last year, so I think they should have another 50-year season under the belts. And that leaves us with the top two. The top tier in the Eastern Conference is what a lot of people are agreeing on. Boston and Milwaukee. I'm just gonna reveal them both now because I don't really care about the theater of this. But I've been going back and forth. As of now, I have Boston at 2 and Milwaukee at 1. Now, as a Celtics fan, I think I have a bit more of a realistic expectation for what the season is going to look like than some other people around the league. And don't get me wrong, like, they're going to be good. There's a reason that they are in this top tier with a Dame and Giannis-led Milwaukee Bucks team. Their defense is going to be amazing. Their offense will probably be pretty good too. Probably run into some hiccups here and there, but overall, they're going to be a good team. I don't want to get my words twisted. I just think at the end of the day, having Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the same roster, unless they both get hurt for a long stretch of time, this is just going to be a really, really consistent regular season team. Obviously, playoffs might be a different story, but I just don't think the Celtics have that same firepower, at least offensively, that the Bucks do on a night in, night out basis. So that's the hill I'm going to die on. I got Milwaukee 1, Boston 2. Obviously, if the Celtics end up taking the top seed, as a Celtics fan, I'm going to be beyond happy for that. But as of now, I just think that this is the most realistic possible outcome for the season. Anyway, here's the full list. Again, I have it color-coded for playoffs, play-in, and missing everything, just to help the eyes out a little bit. Let me know what you guys think. Which teams am I wrong about? Which teams am I right about? But outside of that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one.